Welcome to Brand You.
The ultimate personal branding podcast.
I'm Kaz Grant.
And I'm Toby Lee.
Together, we're here to help demystify personal branding
and to make it accessible and effective for everyone.
Follow along as we guide you through creating your own personal branding journeys.
So, let's get started.
Let's brand you. Hi everybody and welcome back to the Brand You podcast. We are back for series 2 and we are bringing you lots of juicy episodes all about personal branding and taking your personal brand to the next level in 2025 and beyond. So we're jumping in today with an episode that is all about the perception gap and how that aligns to your personal brand. So we're going to be talking about what the perception gap is. We're going to be talking about how your personal brand can help you bridge that gap, and then also lots of other tips on that as well. So Toby, what is the perception gap?
So I'm really excited about this because this is going to help us and our audience understand how it is we're being perceived. And essentially, it's the gap between how you view yourself internally and how others perceive you externally. And if we can analyze this, we can then work out, okay, what is that gap and how do we now bridge that gap so actually the two align? So, for example, you might be, I'll tell you what's a better example actually, is a lot of what clients tend to say to me when they come for photo shoots. It's, I want to have these kind of photos that are really professional and look amazing. I see all these other people, using and it works for them and their brand. But I don't want to look like this. I don't want to look like I know it all. I don't want to look like I'm, full of myself and things like that. So it's the idea of going, okay, well, let's just take a step back. Let's look internally. Okay, how do we view ourselves internally? What is our kind of confidence level, our skill set? Let's look at it externally. How are people actually viewing us? And are they ever going to see us like that? Whatever you fear, and how do we bridge that gap essentially.
So the perception, I guess, of being like not like people that they don't want to be like, but also the perception of like, I would love to be like this, like if you're thinking about people that we're putting on a pedestal, maybe like I would love to be like that. But the gap, I feel like I'm just this person. The gap is so far. So it's like maybe looking at it in the positive side and then also a bit of the negative side.
Absolutely,
where we don't like what they're portraying and we're worried that we're going to end up like that as well.
Yeah, and also it really then we can use it to then help us create something unique. So we can start off aspiring to be like someone else, but then also take it that one step further and start finding our unique voice in that. So some examples of the perception gap at play. I was thinking this morning on the drive in about Mr. Donald Trump and how, the first step of the process is to kind of score yourself out of 10 internally, okay? Yeah. So on a confidence level, where would you rate yourself? So if we were to look at our friend Donald, he's off the scale. He's going to be a 12 out of 10. There is nobody above him. There is nobody that could, outwit him or he's full of himself, isn't he?
Yeah. Guy has some crazy confidence levels.
Absolutely. However, his external rating is going to vary. So if we were to look at, say, status, he's now one of the most powerful men in the world, which is terrifying. So status-wise, he's kind of a 10 out of 10. But in terms of external perception of how other people perceive him, that's really varied. There's a large number who, he got voted into power, so there's a large number who support him, who think of him as a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Yeah. But there's also a large majority who see him as, definitely in the lower numbers.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, I was chatting with my wife about it. She said, okay, so how does he bridge his gap? And he's a bit of a non-starter because he's so self-unaware because he's a 12 out of 10 in his head. I don't know where you start to kind of bridge that gap for him. However, if we look at personal branding terms, another example might be, let's take figure A. Okay, so they're fictional. They run their own business, okay? They may be coming across externally to people as a bit of 11 out of 10, a bit of their messaging just isn't quite right, and they're coming across, they're turning people away because they seem like they know they they
bit of a
know it
show
all.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when really all they're trying to do is they think they're helping. Their inner perception is, I'm just giving it a 7 here. I'm just trying to help people.
Yeah.
When actually their messaging's coming across very direct, very hammering it down the throat, and it turns people away. So it's a good way to kind of take a step back at things and go, okay, what am I really putting out there? So phase 1 is to score yourself out of 10 on that internal process. So go on, where would you rate yourself out of 10 in terms of confidence and?
Because that's the thing, isn't it? I think it's different as well, depending on what you're trying to go for.
Yeah.
So confidence is just one level of how you might want to be perceived or how you might want to put yourself out there. So again, there's lots of different, I guess, mini subjects within this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because how do you want to be perceived, first of all? Is it more confident, or actually is it less confident because maybe you are naturally a Donald Trump and your audience maybe needs you to level it down a bit? It's like, what do you want to be perceived at? And it's confidence, it's like your kindness levels, it's your helpfulness, it's like, it's all these different things as well, isn't it? But okay, so confidence level, I feel like I come across, my perceived confidence is higher than my own actual internal confidence. But I think a lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
And actually, I think my internal confidence levels, as a general broad spectrum of things, I reckon I'm about a 6 to 7.
Okay.
Out of 10.
Yeah.
I reckon, though, I'm perceived as more of maybe an 8 and a 9 at times, because of the uncomfortable situations that I put myself in and because of how I portray myself and the things that I do. And like, we're doing a podcast right now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
How confident are these two to do a podcast? So externally, through the podcast, we might look quite confident.
Yeah.
But inside, we're like, oh, we're not that confident about doing this, but we do it to gain more confidence down the line, aren't we? So what we're doing with this is we're bridging our gap, aren't we? Because one day, our perception and how we feel internally might be the same. Might be like, we've done a great job, actually. We've put ourselves in comfortable situations. We've grown the podcast. We've sorted out the technology, the lighting, the messaging. All of that has got better over time. Ooh, we suddenly then start to feel a bit more confident as well. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Well, what's interesting there is like your gap there then, so between your internal and external scores you gave yourself is only 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So actually that's not a massive gap already to try and close. That's a really good place to be. And I'd say my scores would probably be similar. Like I kind of probably see myself as a 6 or a 7 as well in terms of walking into a room of people I don't really know, I'll naturally position them higher than me until I meet people and work out, am I on your level or not? You know, so I naturally keep myself on the modest, humble side of things. But in terms of like personal confidence in my own skills and stuff, I'm really confident there. And then externally, similarly, I think like to what you're saying, because, you know, I do try and interact with people online. I do try and be confident walking into a room. I do quite a bit of public speaking and things like that, and the podcast and things and videos. You know, all those things add up to kind of building that perception. So again, not a massive gap for me either. So in terms of external score then, if we were to kind of rate each other, I mean, probably what you sort of said, I probably would say it'd be even higher. I'd say a 9 or a 10 if I'm honest.
Really?
Me rating you from you know, my perception of your kind of reputation online, what I see you out and about doing, from what you're choosing to show. Let's not forget, it's not like, you know, I'm following you around going, how confident does she seem today? Oh, she didn't seem too sure about that, did she? You know, I'm going off what you're choosing to put out through your personal brand. I'd say a 9 or a 10. And that's an exciting place to be because it's authoritative, it's expert level, but without any Donald Trump 11 or a 12, you know.
Yeah. And the same to you as well. I think I perceive you at that higher confidence than you perceive yourself, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, like nobody else knows the thoughts that are going on internally in all of our human minds, do they?
No.
So all of us, to a certain extent, are a little bit less confident at some things than we are the others.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the key differentiator between successful people, successful personal brands, people that go and have that confidence and get it done are the people that just do it when they're not feeling that confident. Because I think if we'd have had this conversation at the start of the podcast as well, like day one, when we came in here to first film the start of the podcast, and if we'd asked each other that, maybe our perceived internally would have been less, and maybe our external expectations of our perception would have been less as well. So again, it's through the doing it that we've got more confident with that area. It's so intriguing, isn't it, and exciting, because I do think that it breaks down the barriers then to anybody being able to achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, like we were talking before filming this, weren't we, about, you could want to be so much higher and perceived so much higher than you maybe are now. It doesn't mean that, in the space of a week, you'll get there, or you need to get there, or you're broken because you're not there.
Yeah.
It just means that what can you do to move yourself a little bit forward on that ladder of perception to bring you closer to who you need to be.
Yeah.
To attract the right people, to bring in the right collaborations, to, grow your following, grow your visibility. Like, who's that person ultimately on that pedestal that you need to be? And then where you are, what steps are you going to take to get closer to that pedestal person?
Yeah.
I think. Because again, if we look at, I'm not going to use Donald Trump as a thing, because I'm not sure anybody uses that phrase. I want to be Donald Trump. I don't think that's ever said. I want to be, I don't know, maybe someone like Stephen Bartlett, for example.
Yep.
Again, controversial. Some people like, it's like Marmite. Some people like him, some people don't like him. So, but a lot of people admire him, like what he's doing with business, like his personal brand, how he's created himself and holds himself. So, you might want to be at that level. You might be at this level. Like, what steps can you take to get to that? Because Stephen Bartlett at the beginning wasn't Stephen Bartlett, was he?
No.
He's taken steps to get to that level that he wants to be perceived as. I think Donald Trump probably came out the womb like it, actually, but he's an exception to the rule.
Yeah. Because then it's interesting with the external number that you get people shifting down as well.
Yeah.
So you might have somebody of incredible influence. Say we've spoken about the Gymshark owner.
Yeah. Ben Francis.
Ben Francis, that's it. Thank you. In terms of influence, confidence, what he's achieved, he's a 10.
Yeah.
But he wants to be like a man of the people, so he kind of plays himself down a bit. So it's almost like in that 9 and 10 category, it's almost like not being afraid to be unique and to be disliked. And that's where people like Stephen Bartlett and those unique characters that we can describe as Marmite, and some people love him, some people hate him, kind of fall into.
Yeah.
And then sort of your sevens is that middle ground of like, you're as far as you can go without not pleasing everyone.
Not pleasing everyone. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, all of us maybe are trying too hard to be that thing that everybody will like and is like, and I am the best at this, right? I have spent the majority of my life, I've got a post coming out later today about it, like I've spent the majority of my life being that people pleaser, being that person in the middle. I want to be like Marmite. I want to be the one everybody likes, right? So my whole life has kind of led me down that road of doing that. And then you get to that pivot point where you're like, oh, actually, like I don't want to blend in anymore. That's how I've described it in the post, actually, about blending in. I don't want to blend in anymore. I want to stand out a bit. And actually, I want to stand out and be this version of myself and this person, not someone different. This unique blend of me, this person, but she's a little bit up there from where I am now. Again, looking at how you can get there, and like, how are you perceived to the outside audience with that as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
very difficult sometimes, I think, to know how you're perceived externally, isn't it? Because it's great, we can have this chat and we can talk to each other about it, and we have these conversations because we're doing the podcast, because we're personally branding together. We can open up that floor. We're a safe space as well. We know that, like, if either of us gives each other a not even like a more negative response to something, it's coming from a place of like, we want each other to do better. We want, so it's that safe, it's not criticism, it's like criticism, but to make you a bit better.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's finding those people maybe in the audience's networks that could give them that honest feedback. Because I think when we're looking at the external perception, we are not always going to know how we are externally perceived. So it's like finding those people that you try, that balance with this. Don't choose your best mate, because again, they've probably spent years and years and years just trying to be your best mate and please you. So they're probably going to tell you in a nice way, unless you've got some real honest friends, which there's a couple of friends I know I can go to.
Yes, yeah.
I love them. We're going to continue loving each other, but oh my goodness, they're going to tell me like it is, which is great.
That's what you need,
So find those kind of people. If you've got no friends that would give you an honest opinion, or you're too scared to go to maybe your friends to ask, because you are stepping out from that person, that version of yourself, it might be scary in your friendship circles. You don't want to, again, alienate yourself. So if you haven't got the friends, is there anybody in your family? Is there anybody like that you've connected with in the networking space, in the online space? Like, have a little, like, coffee with them, sit down with them, chat via messenger with them. Can you give me an honest opinion on how you perceive me from the external thing? I want to know, I want to understand, so that I know if it's aligned to what I'm trying to be or not. And if not, I can tweak it.
Absolutely.
Power in knowing. This isn't bad to know. There's power in knowing.
It's worth not asking and just keep going down that route. And not knowing that actually you're not coming across how you think you are.
And again, you're learning how to personally brand yourself. Like, the listeners to this, they're not paying for a professional, they're not paying for an agency, they're not paying for people to do it for them. So you're learning as you go. You're not going to get it perfect all the time. There might be things that you put out that flop. There might be things that you put out that someone goes, oh, I didn't think that you were like that kind of person, or what. Feedback. It's feedback. Not criticism, it's just feedback. Learn from it. Pivot on that post again in the future. Do something maybe a little bit different. I actually quite like stretching the boundaries sometimes with my own personal brand and my own post, because again, I don't know unless I put it out almost. There's some testing things that I do throughout the year because I'm just curious. I'm curious to see how my audience perceives that, or what kind of engagement it gets, what kind of likes. Do they even see it? Maybe not. But I like doing some stuff like that because, again, it gives me that feedback. It's okay to test. It's okay to try things. What I find quite interesting as well is, and I've read books and I've listened to podcasts, and there's been lots of things, because I'm constantly like, I'm a learner, I'm a grower. Like, I want to absorb it all. I want to become the best person that I can become. I want to know all the knowledge. So I read all this stuff, listen to all this stuff. Along the way, every now and again, a book or a podcast or something will tell me to go and ask my friends, my family, my colleagues for feedback on this particular thing. Every time I get to that part in the book, I think, yeah, that would be great. And then I never do it. Never do it. I'm going to finish recording this podcast today, and I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to ask a few key people how I'm perceived to them in the different areas and different platforms that I'm on, because I think it's really beneficial. So I just want to kind of push our audience to do the same as well. This year in 2025, let's not be scared of asking for that feedback, asking for that constructive criticism. Let's get it off of people, so again, we can learn and grow. Because do you do that as well?
No, absolutely, I do.
We all do.
And I like to think of myself as being quite self-aware, and therefore probably just fob it off, going, it's all right, I didn't get round to asking people what they really thought, but actually it can be, really eye-opening. But a lot of our self-doubts and fears come from, we might be 10 out of 10 self-aware, but we can still have those niggling thoughts of going, oh, what do they think about that? Should I have posted that? Should I have not done this? Or, the only way to get that answer is to ask people, honest questions and hopefully get some honest answers back, isn't it?
Yeah. And do you know what? Some of the honest answers are going to be great ones.
Yeah.
I think, again, we catastrophize stuff in our heads, don't we? We're like, I can't ask them because they are going to tell me that was crap because I knew that was crap because in my head I knew it was crap and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And your head spirals like that, so you don't ask them as well because of fear. But actually, sometimes I have asked people certain stuff and the responses that I've got have been so lovely.
Yeah.
And again, have actually given me that boost of confidence that, I am doing an okay job. I'm doing a good job. Like, I'm on the right path. This is going, okay, cool. That's nice to know. Thank you very much. And they weren't saying it just to be kind and faking it. They were saying it because that's how they perceived it.
Yeah.
So again, not all perceptions from other people are going to be negative.
No.
So if you jump straight to that in your brain, kind of shut that part down instantly. That's just a thought. Thoughts aren't real.
That's it.
We think all this crap. It's not real. Yeah.
So in terms of bridging the gap, so we've worked out our internal score. Mm-hmm. We've worked out our external score. Either we've taken a good guess or an estimate, or we've actually done our homework and gone and asked some people. Mm-hmm. So now it's time to look at what that difference is. Now, there could be a series of different outcomes. Mm. It could be that your personal score is really low and your external score is really high. So, what do we do in that situation in terms of our personal branding? How can we work on our personal skills in terms of confidence and how we feel about ourselves and what we're actually doing? Because I imagine that's quite a difficult place to work from, that other people are perceiving you to be fairly confident and expert in what it is you do and putting yourself out there, but actually internally there's that conflict there of I'm not enjoying this one bit. So it's trying to find enjoyment in that.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be the most popular one for people.
It probably will be. I imagine people will rate themselves down a bit there,
Yeah, definitely. And that is like all of us are inherently feel unworthy and like we don't quite fit in and we're fighting to fit in, all the rest of it. Because again, when we were young, like ancestors and stuff, you had to fit in to be in the tribe. So we've got that internal thing that we need to so badly.
Sure.
That if we don't, we're not good enough, we're not worthy, we're not this, that, and the other. So it takes a lot to reprogram your brain to do all that. And that isn't some let's tell our listeners to do an affirmation a day and then you will be signed. It's not going to happen. It might take you writing those limiting beliefs down and those limiting negative thoughts, rewriting, reframing them to more positive ones, saying those to yourself 3 times a day, every single day for the next year before something clicks.
Yeah.
It might be reading books like Jamie Kern-Lena has a book, a great one called Worthy. Again, just getting you thinking about how you're perceiving yourself and actually how we're all worthy. We're all born worthy. We are worthy. So building it up that way, it might be listening to podcasts all the time on, again, self-belief, self-worth, self-confidence. It might be who you're spending the most time with, having a look at those key people in your life. Are they feeding into you're not good enough, or are they boosting you? Because a lot of us are potentially in partnerships, in relationships, in friendship circles that are negative, that are not nice, that are bitching about other people. So we think, oh God, are they also judging us? We're not going to, we did that, so they must be judging us. Or in relationships where, again, you're dealing with your own stuff, there's 2 of you in it, but maybe one of you is knocking the other one down. These are hard stuff that you're going to have to maybe break through if it's other people. It's so vast. I've been working on this stuff for the last 6 years. Ever since I started in the network marketing industry, I got a glimpse of this side of stuff, of this side of personal development and personal growth. And I didn't realize at the time that I didn't feel that worthy, that I had all of these self-limiting beliefs. And over time, they've all come out the woodworks and they've all gone again, not a fully formed human. I've still got stuff and still doing stuff. But I know some practices now that work for me every single day that boost me up or don't.
Yeah.
And I know, and I can feel it in myself, and I catch myself now. If I've not been doing those practices, Christmas, great example, right?
Yeah.
You'll have a Christmas break. Like, we all go off and do stuff. Some of those habits, some of the mindset habits or healthy habits go away during that time. I felt like when I came back after, I was a bit more negative. I'm still quite a bubbly girl, but I was a bit more negative in myself, and I was a bit more like, I'm not sure if I believe. Started doing the mindset thing, started doing the affirmations, started reading the personal development books, the hanging around of those great people again, boosting myself, listening to the podcast, exercising again, looking after myself, like all of the things that make me feel like I am good enough and I am good enough. And then suddenly 2025 is my year of transformation now, and I'm going for it and I'm unstoppable, and there's things. Is it going to continue throughout the year? No, I need to keep doing those things. It's like the gym, isn't it? You've got to keep going. So if that is you've got a lot to work on, but know that you can, again, work on it and find the things that light you up and make you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I had to go into that then because I think it's so important, because I think so many people are not doing that and hold themselves back when they don't have to.
Yeah, I think they often feel like there's no way through or no way out or forward even.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that's fantastic. Like, in terms of, if your internal score is a lower one, then there is plenty of stuff to be working on.
Yeah.
With regards to personal branding as well, the other way to bridge that gap whilst you're working on those self-development things is to go, well, my external score, am I giving that perception of a higher external score to people because my messaging is actually not accurate and truthful and authentic? Can I actually pull that down to close that gap? So if I'm saying I'm a 2 internally, but you're perceiving me as an 8 because of what I put out on my social media and I'm so confident and isn't life great, actually, wouldn't it be more authentic and more beneficial for our personal brand to go, let's draw that down to a 4 and actually just share some real things that are going on, how I'm really finding things. You know,
some vulnerability.
Exactly, there's nothing, and the reason, so I agree with what you said earlier, that it will be the most common outcome of probably getting a low internal and a high external. The other reason for that will be is when we go into personal branding or do anything marketing wise, we're always copying. We're always looking at people we aspire to be like and go, well, I'm going to do what they do, because I've done it with photography. You know, my style's changed so much over the years because I've just tried to mimic things that other people have done and eventually found my own style. But
and not necessarily copying, it's you're inspired by that. You're inspired by it, so you take that on yourself.
And then same with marketing principles. You know, how many times have you tried something and then the next week ditched it because it's not worked? And it's like, well, it hasn't worked because you just, copied it and didn't stick it through and didn't actually know what it was you were putting out there at the time anyway. So often we can create that assumption that actually business is doing really well, things look really great and everything's golden and bliss, but actually we're not getting that full personal identity through. It could be so powerful in building that trust.
Disconnect as well, disconnect from where you are to your audience, and then also that internal fight that you're having to fight to look like that specific person all the time is exhausting. And I think one of the reasons why people don't like personal branding or don't like social media is because they get burnt out with it, because they're trying to be someone that they're not. Their gap is so big. Whereas actually the drive to authenticity nowadays, the drive to being more vulnerable, the drive to just being yourself more. How nice is that? Because you don't have to try and fake it till you make it. You can work on yourself and you can grow, but you can just you can take steps until you make it in your world, and take steps, not about perfection, just one step forward.
So then the other possible solution is that actually your internal score comes out really high and your external one is low, which isn't like people telling you, your social media is crap or anything like that. It might be a case of, I don't really know what you do, or I see you've done this the other day, but then you didn't post for so many weeks. That's probably more social media focused, but you get the idea. How much are you actually putting out and sharing? Is it enough? Are you telling people through your business branding, your personal branding messaging, what it is that aligns with your strategy and what you need to be telling them? Because if they're not getting the message, how can they score you any higher? So
So it's really interesting because one thing that I'm seeing with Quirk, and obviously we're a personal branding agency, so we're helping people step out and get out there. And seeing so many people that I'm talking to recently are incredible human beings that if they had started a personal brand 5 years ago, they would be the pedestal people that like we're talking about here, right? They would be huge if they'd done their personal branding right and if they'd done it all up until this point. But they haven't. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because they are, and within their industries, they are at that level, right? That how they speak about their industry, how they speak about their missions, how they speak about their world of expertise, they're up there. But how they are perceived online, they're not existent, or they're sharing reposted content that doesn't even make sense to their audience. They've got no story, they've got no reason to almost be like, they haven't got a personal brand on there, or they have, but they haven't got a strategic one, defined one. And it's like, oh my goodness, like how do you, again, bridging that gap, like you are up there. You've got everything that it takes. You just need to turn that into an online version of yourself and share that with the world, because when those two align, your messaging is going to be spread far and wide. Like, this is a hashtag nicer problems to have thing, right? When you're that great, you got no work to do on yourself. You're bloody amazing. You've just got to move your online world to that. And then that'll match your in-person networking as well. You need anything doing. You need collaborations. You need people to work with. You need whatever. They're going to come to you. As soon as you like consistently start building that side of it, you're going to attract so much. Like, I'm excited for that person. If you're in that person, amazing.
But let us know if you are that
Let
person.
us know. Yeah, we can help you. Yeah.
So that concludes the first episode of Series 2. How did we get this far? It's crazy. So your actionable step, the first one of Series 2, is to work out your perception gap. So just to recap, you're going to rate yourself internally. So this is your confidence level out of 10. How do you feel about your personal brand, your skill set, your overall confidence level, and pop a number on it. Step number 2 is you're going to monitor your external score. So either take a good guesstimate, or please ask some friends, people you trust, about your personal branding reputation. What score would they give that out of 10 based on what they see of you, what they see of what you share online and on your social media, through your website, any messaging like that? What is their perception of you and your personal brand? And then you're going to look at the gap. What does that gap tell you? Does that gap tell you need to work on certain areas, whether that be the internal confidence or whether that be the messaging, because they're not quite getting the message that you're hoping that you're sending out? And from that, just create a little bit of an action plan for yourself. How do you get yourself back onto your personal branding strategy? And if you need to refer to the personal branding strategy episode in Series 1, go back and have a listen, because it probably means that it is a good time to have a little review of those things, just to see what is it that we're saying and are we saying the right things.
So that concludes episode 1 of Series 2. We're excited to be back on your screens. So follow us along on our individual LinkedIn platforms, or follow along on the Brand You LinkedIn group as well. And please feel free, guys, to ask us any questions that you have on personal branding within the group, or send us a message about them, so that we can ensure that all the future episodes are geared to exactly what everybody is wanting to learn about with personal branding. So we'll be back with traditional marketing versus personal branding to find out which is the best for you in 2025.
I just realised I get to say the first one of Series 2. Here's to branding you.
Yay! Series 2.